Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. Let's start our video with a story about a vivid example of terrible customer service. Despite all the problems our OP faced, he was able to adequately resist the company that tried to cheat him out of money. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. Having terrible customer service gets you nowhere. A little backstory. I have a large yard and I use this lawn company for a few years because I also have very little downtime in the summer with work. They did a good job, but they were not cheap. When I initially signed up, they made me sign a contract and it said they had to be notified in writing to cancel the contract. Well, everything was going great, and since I make more money in the summer, I really don't mind paying them for their great services. Then, last winter, my dad gave me his old zero-turn mower, and I'd be able to cut my lawn in only about an hour or two, and I decided I could manage the yard work the following summer, since it wouldn't take nearly as long and I could save a bunch of money. I sent a certified letter ending my contract with them. A few months later, I was injured and was unable to do anything physical, and was not making money. Spring rolls around and the lawn company shows up and cuts the grass. They just kept showing up every week. I was very surprised, but I thought maybe the landlord felt bad and had them come out or something. I was confused, but didn't really pay much attention until the bills started coming. Since I really couldn't mow it anyway, I decided to pay as much as I could every month until it was paid off. Well, with all the medical bills, it took longer than expected, and they started badgering me for money. No problem, they provided a service and I'll pay them for it. I paid half the total bill in good faith, then went back to monthly payments. It was fine until they started to become rude. I explained the situation, but they were having none of it. After a month or so of rude calls and me explaining my story again and again, I got fed up. I said, "Can you please check my contract? I don't think I should have to pay for this. After all, I terminated my contract over a year ago." After about a 10-minute hold, they said they could find no current contract and that my bill had been wiped to zero. I really did want to pay them in full, but if you're going to be a jerk, then so am I. They screwed themselves out of $1,200. And our next story. How a multi-million-dollar profit goes poof, or why I'll never work in a corporate store again. I used to work for a clown, or the Scottish place if you prefer. It was wonderful, to be honest. It was owned and operated by a local guy who also owned another franchise that his wife ran. Awesome people. It was my first job. I got paid $1 over minimum wage. Meals were free. We could take home leftovers at the end of the day. Yay, apple pies. My managers were all great people. Most of my coworkers were as well. I left on good terms at the end of my senior year in high school. I came back about 2 years later. My life wasn't working out as planned, so I moved back in with my parents, walked in one day to get something to eat, and before I knew what was happening, I was giving them my uniform size and starting the next day. I was cool with it, needed a job. That one was like riding a bicycle. Quickly got back into the swing of things. Then corporate came calling. They'd seen the amazing profits this store in a rural area was making, $3+ million a year in profit in a town that has more cows than people, and of course they wanted in on that. The owners were getting older, late 50s, early 60s, had built the stores about 14 years earlier, and wanted to spend more time with their grandkids. They sold both stores to corporate, made a nice chunk of change to retire on. They left on their yacht to sail down to the Bahamas for a year or so. Then came corporate and Becky. She'd been an AGM at another store and was anxious to prove herself as a brand new general manager. She didn't like that employees all got free meals, but the previous owners had made that a stipulation in the contract. She insisted that our paper costs were out of control and made a rule that drive-through customers only got 1 napkin per meal ordered. Customers complained, and I directed them to Becky. She also discontinued the store policy of free refills in the drive-through. We only had about 3 regulars who took us up on the offer, and they understood but didn't like it. We had a group of elderly gentlemen that had come in every morning. They all got a senior coffee and would sit and bullcrap with each other for a few hours. Betty, who worked the counter in the morning, would have their coffees waiting for them with the appropriate cream and sweeteners by the time they got in and plunked down their 52 cents. Becky made her stop. "How do you know what they're going to order?" she asked. "They've come in every weekday for the past 10 years and ordered the same thing. That's how I know," Betty replied. She was a sweet lady, but didn't take crap from anyone. Becky replied that she didn't care, and if food was made before it was ordered again, there would be write-ups in Betty's future. And things like that continued. No more taking home leftover apple pies. That's stealing. The only drinks employees were allowed to have while working were soft drinks or tap water. Previous owners allowed us whatever we wanted, from coffee to shakes. If we wanted something else, we had to wait until our meal break or pay for it. Customers noticed the changes and started not coming in as often. Sales and profits fell. People started quitting, even employees who'd been there for years. I left after a few months, quickly finding another job. Becky only lasted a year and a half before corporate took a look at the numbers and decided that she wasn't doing well. Profits were cut at least in half, sales were seriously down from previous years. Corporate sold it back to an owner-operator, and from what I heard, for considerably less than they'd paid for it. In essence, Becky refused to listen to the employees and managers, some of whom had been there since the store opened, as far as how the store needed to be run, and insisted on doing it all the corporate way. From what I hear, it's still not the same as in the old days, but it's considerably better than the corporate days. Corporate, always trying to fix things that aren't broken. And our last story. I led a revolution against our petty HOA board. My wife and I moved into a 64 townhome community that was 10 years old at the time. The HOA board was comprised of 5 members that were original homeowners when the community started and had been the sole board members since the community started. Their sense of entitlement was bat-crap crazy. They thrived on their quarterly walkthrough of the neighborhood, as they would write up every single home for some kind of violation, regardless of how minor the offenses were. Everyone gets a violation letter. Our first letter, the first month living there, was that our garage door paint was starting to peel. It was a 2-centimeter scrape where the panels met. It needed to be repainted, the siding needed to be power washed, there was a patch of green moss behind a bush, and the sliding door on the deck was dirty. There was dirt at the bottom of the door from recent rain, and it needed to be washed. We had 30 days to fix the issues or begin accruing a fee of $25 a day until they're resolved. I asked around, and everyone gets these ridiculously petty letters every quarter. No matter what you did to maintain your townhome, you were going to get a letter about something. As this was going on, none of the major items in the neighborhood needed fixed were addressed. After a decade since the construction, the ground had settled unevenly, and many homes had standing water issues where it wouldn't drain after a storm. The rainwater would sit for 5 to 7 days in people's lawns, and more importantly, there'd been a legal fight with the town since the community was started about our road being dedicated, meaning the town was responsible for snow removal. Our HOA dues included paying for our own snow removal, which we shouldn't have to, and we were paying an attorney for 10 years to fight this with no resolution in sight. Fast forward 2 years, and a few of us had enough and decided to band together and replace the board at the next annual meeting. The existing board got wind of this and hit us all with pages worth of issues with our properties, since if you have outstanding issues, you're not in good standing with the community and cannot run for a board position or even vote for those running. This petty move brought the community even closer, and we all spent the weekend before the meeting helping each other clean out their HOA honey-do lists. We took pictures, documented everything, then we had the U.S. Mail certify delivery of each packet with the completed list and photos to the HOA board, who lived 75 feet away. Come board night, oddly enough, the lawyer was there to give an update that no progress had been made with the township on dedicating our road. He stuck around as we moved to the elections for the next board. We brought our signed petitions to add our names to the ballot. The board says we're not eligible as we all have outstanding issues with our property. We call bullcrap with our receipts from the post office that they received our completed lists with documentation. They reply that they haven't reviewed them yet. We tell them that's not our problem and we're in good standing. The lawyer, overhearing this, states we are eligible to be on the ballot if we can confirm the issues with our homes were resolved prior to the meeting. The HOA president glares at the lawyer, but the lawyer just shrugs, saying, "The rules are the rules." With the exception of the 5 existing board members voting for themselves or each other, we're voted in nearly unanimously to replace them. I led the revolution because I was tired of the petty BS when there were real problems in the neighborhood. Sadly, the rest of the elected board members vote me as president. I have no idea what I'm doing, but we spend the next few sessions removing all the dumb violations from most of the neighbors. We went through the bylaws to really focus on what's important. What happens next? Ends up that the lawyer was a friend of the previous president and was in no hurry to resolve anything as he was enjoying our excessive bill. I notify him if it's not resolved in the next 6 months, we're finding new representation. He was actually good at his job when pressed to do it. He won the case, the town appealed and tried to drag it out. He fast-tracked the appeal as it had been going on for 10 years and we won the appeal too. The town dedicated our road, and then the lawyer pressed that it should have been done years ago. It wasn't him slowing things down, but the town. He ends up getting us a settlement from the judge for back pay on us paying for snow removal that the town was responsible for. We ended up using that settlement to have French drains installed across much of the community to clear the standing water issues. With the money left over, we fixed a lot of the neighborhood issues that the HOA should have been doing the whole time, fences and sidewalks in disrepair, replaced dead trees and shrubs, etc. It was great getting it all done without having to hit our capital reserve fund. I remained president until we moved a few years ago. Our family began to outgrow the townhome. Now we live in a new, larger development with a new HOA. I was asked to run for a position on it. I replied, not a effing chance, but I'll lead a coup d'etat if I need to. Oh my God, that was beautiful. These people are so horrible to deal with. Good for you. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.